Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about giving things an honest effort, as opposed to just trying something once and kind of giving up on it when it doesn't work. I think I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but this is something that I've been trying to be more aware of lately, especially now that in 2021, I want to focus on a lot of new things just to kind of see what works and what doesn't. And an important part of this is to give something an honest effort. I try very hard to focus on something for a couple months, if possible, before making a determination whether or not it's something that I want to keep doing or something that's not really beneficial to my overall kind of progression as an artist. I apologize for the airplane overhead. And a good example of this is doing something like the OST Jam, where I did the first one and I thought it was okay. This is that was back in January, and right now, in the midst of April, we're in the second one, and I think this is going okay too. And I don't want to just try something once, and if it doesn't work that one time, just kind of give up on it, because I feel that's disingenuous to the idea or to the purpose of trying it out. I want to make sure that when I try something, I give it as much of a chance to succeed as possible before moving on, because sometimes the first time you try something, it doesn't work. And that can go into other things other than new, like, creative initiatives. Sometimes, like, exploring a new genre can be daunting. But if it doesn't work the first time, give it another couple tries, see if it works. Same thing with, I guess that's kind of the same thing with The Moon Seems Unaffected. It took me a couple tries to find the right sound for that album. I listened to a lot of different kind of ambient jazz albums, and I tried to figure out the exact kind of sound that I wanted, and it wasn't something that happened just immediately. It took a little bit of time for me to figure out how I want things to be represented in the music, and kind of the parameters in which the album came together was a little bit of trial and error. And I could have just been like, oh yeah, just slap this stuff on there and just make it sound similar to Black Earth and it'll be fine. And I'm sure that would have worked okay, but like taking the time to come up with these parameters where it has to be these 5 instruments and it has to be within this kind of tempo and all this other stuff, I think that really helped cement the album as something as more of a cohesive whole rather than just a disparate collection of songs, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I really enjoy Felt Cute Might Delete Later, but that's a different style of album. And I wanted to make sure that this album, The Moon Seems Unaffected, was more cohesive. So I wanted to give it an effort to make sure that all of that came together as well as it could. And this doesn't really even have to apply to just like personal things too. I think that it's valuable to give an honest effort, an honest try to anything in your life. Like, if you try something and it doesn't work the first time, try to evaluate why it didn't work and continue to give it a go. Like, I don't think that one attempt at anything is really a good way to determine whether or not it's for you or not. You have to go at it for a while and you'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, I really think that this is just kind of a core idea that you should embrace in your own life, because I think that there's a lot of times where you try something once and then you're just like, well, that didn't work, and then you just walk away from it forever. And it could be a missed opportunity that you just weren't settled into it the same way. I guess I could say this podcast was the same thing. Like, I initially, when I started it, I was iffy on it. Like, it was something that I wanted to do to shore up the gap between creative exploration and to give the $5 and above Patreon people something special to have every week. And it's kind of evolved from that to be a little bit of like a little journal, a way for me to talk every week about something that's going on in my life, and hopefully to imbue some of that knowledge into other people's lives as well, just because, as a creative person, a lot of this stuff is transferable. And the first couple episodes were not exactly stellar. I liked them, but they were not the caliber of quality that I was looking for initially. And, I could have quit it and I could have done something else, but I really like the idea of having this kind of, this kind of place to converse. And once I settled into the whole idea of it, I feel that it became something a little bit more natural for me. Talking by myself, just audio is really weird, and it took a while for me to become comfortable with it. Same thing with streaming. Like I really had a hard time with streaming initially, and I think a lot of people do, just because it's kind of unnatural to be so out there and vulnerable, to have a camera on you and a microphone on you, and you're like sharing what you're doing. And like, as a creative person, that can be very difficult. But over time, I feel that streaming has become one of the most important cornerstones of my creative career. Not necessarily because it makes me the most money or anything, but I feel it's the most creatively fulfilling for me, because it allows me to not only be a part of a community, but to offer myself a distraction-free place to actually work. And I excuse me, I have such a problem when I'm working off camera with distractions. Like, there's YouTube, and there's shows on Disney Plus to watch, and there's Twitter, and there's so many other things, and it's really hard to just put music in the background and sit down and actually work on something. But when I have a camera on me, and when I can't be distracted like that, or when I have chat to distract me, I can actually get a lot of work done. And it's surprising how much work I can get done. I think talking about streaming is actually something that I want to talk to more in the future. I don't know. Maybe I already talked about it. I can't remember anymore. Either way, I think that it's just really important to kind of embrace that stuff, and to when you start something and when you plan on something, it's really important to just kind of go with it for a while and make the honest effort, and not just half-ass it, because it's easy to get into a position where it's just like, oh, that didn't work, I'm going to move on to the next thing. But if you don't know why it doesn't work, and if you don't know that long term it's not going to work for you, then I think it's worth putting in the extra effort to try it. And this also goes to the idea where it's just like, you have to plan for that time too, where you have to make sure that you have time set aside for the next couple months or weeks or however long you feel is comfortable, just to make sure that you put that honest effort in, because otherwise you can just kind of you get overwhelmed, because you're starting so many new projects, and it's easy to not put the right amount of time in there. So yeah, I guess that is it. I hope this is good information and good help for you. This is another one of those like core tenets of my life that I wanted to make sure that I got out there, because I don't think I've really talked about it a whole lot. So yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day, and thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. I really genuinely do appreciate that. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Be remarkable.